Hello, ladies. Today we are having a very important conversation around race and perimenopause and menopause, as well as strength training, GLP-1 medication, and more. And before I bring in my awesome guests, I'm going to do a quick intro to who I am. I'm Andrea Donsky. I'm a nutritionist for 20 plus years. I'm a menopause educator, 7-time, soon to be at the end of this year, published menopause researcher, and I'm the co-founder of wearemorphus.com, a company that helps to empower and educate you when it comes to perimenopause and menopause with nutrition, lifestyle, supplements, and research. And talking about research, we now have 15 surveys, 15 surveys on our website. Our research is awesome. So if you haven't filled out our surveys, please do. Our newest one is on pelvic health and perimenopause and menopause. I put the link below. You can also find them at our website at wearemorphus.com under the research tab. Today I'm speaking with Samantha Montpetit-Huynh. She's the founder of Samcord Trainer, offering the leading comprehensive online health coaching program for women 40 plus navigating menopause and midlife. A media expert, speaker, course creator, author, and award-winning trainer, she was the resident fitness expert on the Marilyn Dennis Show, and she was also featured on other major media outlets like Cityline and CBC's The National. Samantha co-founded the High Heels and Hot Flashes live event and Flip Flops and Hot Flashes Menopause Retreat. Now, here's Samantha. Welcome to Menopause Reimagined, Sam.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm happy to have you here. I'm excited for you to be here too. We met at a conference. We were both on a panel together.
Yeah.
And I just really liked you. I thought you were awesome. And then we had so many great conversations after, and I thought you would be so great for the podcast. And one of the conversations that we had is we were talking about women of color when it comes to perimenopause and menopause. So I want to get into some stats after, but first I want you to start with your story as to what got you interested in working in the perimenopause and menopause space.
Sure, sure. So if I go back in time, so I'm biracial. My mom is white, my dad is black. But I always tell people like I was literally raised by a single white female. She was 17 years old, and she had a really difficult time back then raising a black daughter. She experienced a lot of hatred for having a black daughter, and I was I primarily grew up in white spaces. My school, there was maybe 20 black people in the school, and all my friends were white, and I really wanted to be white. I felt like that was the beauty standard. That's what it was. And if you really think about it, I mean, I'm 54 years old. Back then, I wanted to look like Cheryl Tiegs. I wanted to look like Farrah Fawcett. I used to put a blanket over my head, I remember, and I used to pin it, and I used to flip my hair as if my hair was straightened. And the first time I got my hair straightened, I got it feathered because that was the thing. This is what I wanted. And so I really wanted to be white. And I also remember feeling like when I was around Black people that I wasn't Black enough. I also felt like they made it a point of reminding me that I wasn't. They would call me things like half breed, and I would just kind of giggle it off. And then George Floyd, which changed everything for so many people across the world. It really was like it was like this light bulb moment. And I remember doing a lot of crying. My daughter was sitting in my office here, and my daughter sat on the floor and she was crying because her boyfriend was black and she was really afraid for him. And I remember going live on Facebook and just talking about this, like what I just said. Like, I always wanted to be white and I never felt accepted with black, but then I felt so drawn to my black community, and I wanted to fight back. And so since then, over the last since George Floyd, so that was in 2020, right?
Yep.
I think I'm
Yep.
dating myself. Yeah. I've really made a huge shift in getting reconnected with my blackness. And it's really been wonderful and very, very healing. And so then when I started, so I've been a personal trainer for, God, almost 24 years now. It's a long time. And I naturally started to like when I first started my career, it was in pre and postnatal because that's the stage of life I was in. My babies were babies, so it just made sense. And then as I grew older, it was the more like women over 40. And then I was like, wait a second. Now it was like perimenopause because I was going through it. But what I had noticed as I was doing a lot of research and I was on Instagram is that there was very few people who looked like me.
Mm.
Everybody was white. And it wasn't until I was driving home from the gym one morning and I was listening to a podcast, and there was this woman named Omashade Bernie Scott, who is the founder of the Black Girl's Guide to Menopause, and she was talking about how menopause can look differently and have different experiences for Black women. And I remember listening to it, I'm going, really? And like I was talking out loud because I'm just starting to really learn. I'm like, really? No kidding. And so, of course, I started to follow her. I messaged her. I said, I love you. I want to learn more. And so I just started to do more of a deeper dive. And still, no matter how much I did, there was very few women who looked like me. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to be the person, or because I've always been the loud person, which is very much a that is that so I shouldn't say so I do admit that I'm a loud person. I'm very opinionated, but I've also always been taught that I'm too loud and I should be quiet. And from my learning a lot about systemic racism, that's something that is very much attached particularly to Black women. You're too loud, you're too aggressive, calm down. And so I would quiet my voice. And so now I've decided that no, I finally feel permission that I am going to be loud and I am going to speak my mind and I am very opinionated. And I talk about that too. Like, not everybody likes me, and that's fine because I don't like everybody, right? Um, but I was going to talk about how there really is a big missing. There's like a big hole when it comes to the menopause space and representing all women and people with uteruses. So I think that's really important.
Well, one of the things that I was so enamored with when we were on the panel is that you exude this like incredible confidence. Like when you, it's like you were on that stage and you were just like you are in your knowing. You're just very like matter of fact, but yet it have this incredible sense of like this is me. And so you've definitely embodied it because that, and I am very much, I love strong women. Like to me, that to me is like it is the sexiest, like most endearing quality to me is that when I see a woman who is confident and in their knowing and just they know themselves, like, and that's why I think I liked you so much because I was like, wow, this woman is like amazing.
Oh,
So yeah, it's true. So I love the fact that you actually own that part of yourself because if anything, I don't see you as loud. I just see you as being like you just know who you are.
thank you. I really appreciate that. It's taken me a long time. I feel like wow, it's taken me 54 years to get here, but
Yeah.
now there's no going back. But I appreciate you. And I also feel though that you probably see that. And now, and I'm making an assumption because I'm not in your head. I think you also appreciate that because you are also older. And now there's no more of dumbing people down and really appreciating people for that quality. Like maybe you wouldn't see that when you were 20 and 30. And I definitely wouldn't have saw that. I would have thought the same thing, like, oh, she's really loud and she needs to calm down. And why is she so you know what I mean? Like, why is she bringing so much attention to herself? You know what
Mm.
I'm saying? Like, I feel like we have, even though, are we allowed to swear on here?
Oh, yes, you're allowed to swear.
Okay. You know how
We,
they say with menopause, like, we no longer have any fucks to give?
yeah.
Um, I feel like even though, we no longer have any more fucks to give, we do have more tolerance for women our age for being themselves,
Yeah. And
right?
it's such an important thing. Like I always say, like menopause, it's such an empowering time because we can own who we are. We can put down boundaries. We can be strong, right? When our estrogen is lower, we don't have that cushiony kind of like having to please everyone as much. So it's
Mhm.
we really kind of do come into our own. And that's why I feel like menopause is such an amazing time because it's like this is me. This is who I am.
Yes.
I actually just watched The Greatest Showman on the weekend. I just love that movie.
Oh, that is a great movie. And
Isn't that the
I don't
best?
like musicals, but I love that movie.
I love that movie. And my favorite song in the movie is when they were walking through and they were like, this is me, and that's kind of how
Yes.
it reminds me of.
Yes. Yeah, totally. I love that movie. And I'm not a musical person, but that one I think I probably watched it a couple times too. That's I'm thinking of the right one with
Hugh Jackman.
yeah, Hugh Jackman. Yes, it's a great movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that it kind of should be our theme song, right? Like, this is me. So owning yourself. Okay. So then once you heard Omashadi speaking, what did you do next? Like, what went through your mind to be like, okay, I am going to help women of color in this phase of life?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, right away, like I said, I messaged her. I sent her and I was like, oh my God, I just listened to you and I think you're so great. And I don't know if she read it or anything, but I was like, okay, now like I'm fangirling her. So I did start following her a lot more. I started listening to all of her podcasts. And then, of course, I started creeping her account. Who else is she following? That's also in the menopause space, that's also a woman of color, and I could start following and learning from there. So honestly, even though I've taken menopause certifications, which are still very generic, I started following accounts to kind of see what their experience was, right? To see how I could relate. And I was learning a lot more from there, which, you know, as much as social media is not doing a lot of generations any good from various standpoints, which I'd love to talk about later, i.e., Serena Williams. Anyways, we can also use it for a lot of good, right? Especially when we can find people who really are good educators and we can learn a lot from. Not to say that I'm putting all of my eggs in one basket, because I also do listen to people like Dr. Mary Claire Haver, for example, but I take little bits and pieces. And but I really felt like, I did want to focus on women of color because of the fact that we are not represented. So not only do I do that online, but we also have an in-person event that we do as well that really also helps to amplify the voices of women in all different aspects when it comes to menopause.
So what did you learn what the differences are? Like, what have you learned?
So, okay, so initially when I was listening to Omi, she was talking about how Black women can start suffering from or enter the menopause space between like, I've heard like 8 months up until like 16 months earlier, that definitely their symptoms can be a lot more serious. So their hot flashes and their night sweats. And this is where medical racism really comes in, that they're not believed as much. They're because they're Black women and we're strong Black women, that there's this idea that we can tolerate pain more. So when we're going in and we're talking to our doctors about maybe we are suffering really debilitating joint pain or migraines, oh, it's not that serious, and I'm going to write you a prescription for painkillers, as opposed to addressing the root cause, which we know is a big issue in the menopause space anyways. But there's this idea that Black women are stronger, so we're not taken as seriously. And because of that, statistics show, and I can't quote the stat, but statistics do show that Black women don't ask for help as much because they know they're going to be gaslit and they know they're not going to get the treatment that they need,
Wow. Wow.
which is really upsetting. And then there were some other statistics about and I didn't necessarily learn this from Omi, but Asian women. So Asian women and especially women from Japan, is that they actually suffer less hot flashes and night sweats. And there's this idea that it could be because their diet is high in soy, right?
Hmm.
And we know that soy can either exacerbate symptoms or it can help
Yeah.
to minimize symptoms, right?
Right.
And indigenous women. So in indigenous culture, menopause is like it's a sign of wisdom. It's something that's celebrated, which I'm like, yes, please.
Yeah.
Right? It's something to be celebrated. And so when women are going through menopause, in indigenous culture, this is something they actually do celebrate, and they really help and support the women going through menopause, right? And it makes me think of like, how they say it takes a village to raise a child. When
Yep.
they're, back in the day when they had babies, everybody was around, the family helped. This is what's happening in indigenous cultures when women are going through menopause, as
Mm.
opposed to what's happening in Western society. We're
Right.
gaslit, we're ignored, we're told we're too difficult. And like we were talking about even before we started recording, ageism is a really big thing. Like we're not even worthy anymore. Where indigenous culture, it's completely different,
Yeah, they
right?
revere. Yeah, they revere older women. Yeah, I know it's ageism is a huge thing too, and like a whole other conversation. But yes, I know. For those of you who are on YouTube, Sam is like shaking her head and rolling her eyes. I mean, it's so true. It really is a big. I actually never get this, Sam. I never experienced ageism until I started Morphus, until I started talking about like the whole menopause, perimenopause phase, and I've experienced it more than like three times, three distinct times I can actually remember it happening. So it's just it's that's yeah, that's like a whole other conversation. Okay. So I
100%.
want to just give so those are those stats are real, and I want to just read a couple of them. So here I was doing some research before we when we booked the interview, because I really want to be sensitive to women of color, and I'm a white woman, and so I wanted to have this conversation because it is so important. So this is research from Evernow. They're a telehealth company. So they say that, so their research shows that Black women were more likely to experience hot flashes, night sweats, vaginal dryness, and mood swings. Hispanic women were more likely to report vaginal dryness, mood swings, and anxiety and depression. East Asian women were less likely to report vaginal dryness, mood swings, and heart discomfort. So, kind of what you were just saying. And
Hmm.
then this was something that I saw also. This was from the SWAN study, the study of women's health across the nation, that Black women reach menopause 8.5 months earlier than white women and have worse symptoms such as hot flashes, depression, and sleep disturbances, but are less likely to receive hormone therapy as well as medical and mental health services.
And as a Black woman, a woman who, again, I'm light skinned, I'm biracial. I never really, I feel like just it's been more recently, which is actually a little bit disturbing because my doctor is brown, right? Is that I also felt like when I first started talking to her about menopause, she'd be like, well, like she said to me one time, she goes, I don't think it's really menopause. She goes, I think it's just aging. And I was like, but what does every woman go through as they age?
What'd she say?
And then she just stopped and she just looked at her computer. And I was like, to me, that is such a cop out, right? As opposed to saying, I don't know, Samantha, but I'm going to get you some help and I'm going to find out who does, right? But I do know that as a Black woman, systemically, right, they have less access to care, right? And like I said already, that idea that Black women are stronger. So it's already in the system. So when they are going through menopause, right, it makes sense because if they're already dealing with the anxiety and the stress of systemic racism, it also makes sense that they would suffer more symptoms,
Yes.
right? Because we know stress is not helpful at all and in menopause. The more stress is out of control, it's going to exacerbate everything. Our symptoms, our sleep, our focus, our eating, everything. So it actually makes sense. And this is why it is a systemic issue.
Mm-hmm. So what can we do about it? Like, for women who are listening, white women, women of color, what can we do about it as a community to help Black women and women of color?
Believe them.
Mm.
Believe Black women. Listen to them. And as much as I want to say, yes, put them on a pedestal, 100%, don't put them on a pedestal and think that we're just like hard and we're tough and we can take it all. We can be very fragile. We can be very emotional. We can be very sensitive, but we have to feel that we're in a safe space in order to do that. And this is why, like when I was talking to when we met at that conference, this is why we created the event that we have, High Heels and Hot Flashes, is to create that safe space that you can come in and your experience is going to be validated. Your voice is going to be heard, right? And we're gonna hopefully set up systems and support so you can keep going and feeling good in this stage of your life. Because I mean, regardless, even as a white woman, a lot of because I've got a lot of white friends who are women, they feel like, oh my God, I can't, like my doctor's not listening to me. I feel like I'm all, and so if you just think that, just imagine where a Black woman is. She's lower. So even if you think about the hierarchy, right? White men are at the top, next are white women. And then Black men are at the bottom, and below them are Black women. So if we think about that, if you can create a safe space and you can listen and have these conversations and be open, right? I think that's a big part is we want to be heard and we want to be validated, right? But we also do need to have more people who look like me and different ethnicities talking about this topic. And you know, also given the space on social media, whereas like that's a big part where a lot of people are learning things, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, right? Giving people that space so they can get their voices amplified. I mean, I have definitely called out some white menopause influencers on Instagram for like, why are you not amplifying Black voices? I don't understand. Or brown or indigenous, or like, why are all of your friends, everybody, when you're putting on events, why are they all white?
Mm.
Why? And for a few of them, they have acknowledged it and said, thank you very much, right? Because again, if you don't know what you don't know. And I understand too, when you're kind of like working and you're focusing, you're in a silo, you're forgetting all the outside and you need someone to come in. And so if somebody does challenge you or ask you, don't become defensive, because when you do that, especially as a white woman, I'm just being totally honest here, right? This is where the distrust comes from. When you defend yourself and you don't step back and just say, you know what? As much as that wasn't my intention, I'm sorry that you felt, ignored, or I'm going to do better. That's all we want.
Mm. Right, to be
That's
heard.
all we want, is to be listened and acknowledged. That's all.
And you're saying people on Insta, how do they normally, like if you've called people out, how do they normally respond?
Ignore me or they block comments.
What? Really?
100%.
Oh my God.
100%. Or I get their fans coming after me. So,
Whoa, wait a minute. What?
oh,
Their
for sure.
fans are coming after you.
Sure. Like in the comments, right? Like if I say something and
No, I knew what you meant, but like
oh,
what?
oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And then what I love is when I get white women coming to me going, why do you have to make everything about race?
Hmm.
Right there, stop saying it.
Hmm.
Why do I have to make everything? Because everything is about race, right? Look at the patriarchy. Systemic whiteness, white supremacy is what that's what we're all. And the thing is when I even talk about white supremacy, which is not something I was even going to go there, but we might as well, this is a conversation, it negatively impacts everybody, even white women, right? So if we could just be more open, and if you feel triggered, if you feel upset, don't come after me. Ask yourself while you're upset and why you're triggered, because it's your trigger. It has nothing to do with me, right?
What
We're all having to unlearn.
That's one thing I was just going to say. Like, one thing I learned during the whole George Floyd movement is I spent a lot of time that year listening to podcasts and really trying to learn. And one of the things that I came away with is that, and we, you hear people say, I don't notice color, or I don't see color. And one of the thing is, and if I hear anybody say that, and I'm like, no, you have to see color. And
Mhm.
that was, I'd say, one of the biggest takeaways that I learned during the whole movement.
Yes, and I'm really glad that you said that. And I know that people say that out of like they're just saying it out of ignorance, out of innocence, because yeah, I mean I wasn't taught to see color, but that's the point. Because when you don't see our color, you erase us,
Right.
right? Because if you don't see our color, but then we have to tick off a box somewhere and it says, ethnicity, black, brown, we have to check that off. It doesn't say, because
Yeah.
everybody else is seeing color. So because if you don't see our color, then that means you erase our experience, you erase everything, you erase our history.
Hmm.
So it's okay to say black, brown, Asian, whatever it is. It's okay to say that. We don't get offended, but we weren't raised to say that, right? And what's really interesting is that, but as soon as you say white, then white women in particular, just because that's the majority of the conversation I have, they get offended. Why are you calling me a white woman? Because you are.
Well, I was gonna say we are, like, I am a white woman.
Yeah, but historically, up until recently, we would never call you white, right?
Hmm.
You were white women or white people are the standard, and everything outside of that
That's
has
it.
a name: black, brown, Asian, Indian, whatever. But
Yeah.
white people, you would never say white because that was just the standard, right?
Ex-
Eurocentric was the standard. And that's the same thing with, the diet industry, and all of this is everything is based around the white standard, right? We're seeing all like, getting our nose thin and all this other stuff, except, lots of people now want to look like black people. Again, that's a whole other conversation. But it's that standard. So I think we also normalize because, at the end of the day, race is a construct, right? White people are the ones who created race. We didn't. So when white people get mad and go, "You're being racist," like, dude, how can I be racist to you? You're the one I didn't even start it. You guys did, right? And I'm not saying you, but historically, white people did, right? So I don't think that we should get all up in arms if we're calling white person, black, brown, whatever. It's fine. It's fine. Don't take offense, especially when we were never allowed to take offense because you named us first.
It's interesting that you're saying because I'm big on vocabulary and really understanding vocabulary. So, and as a white woman, I always try to be sensitive. So, and sometimes I want to make sure I'm using the right vocabulary.
Yeah.
So I think it would be really good to kind of go through the vocabulary. So I say, a woman of color, and then you say black woman, a brown woman. Like I actually would love you to repeat this because I think for us having that vocabulary is really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. So black, brown, but then if they're brown and you're not sure what their background is, ask them. Right?
Mm.
Just like how you asked me how to properly pronounce my name. It's the same thing. What's your background? Are you from India? Are you from Portugal? Because you could be brown, but where are you from? If you wanted to talk about that, right? Asian, racial, and if you're not even sure, you could just say racialized, right? So, and the thing is as well is what I think is also important is people who are white passing also might get offended for being called white, right? But but again, if you think about white supremacy and you think of the way the system is set up, the proximity to whiteness, the whiter you are, and this is just the reality, and people get mad and listen to them stomp their feet and be yelling as I'm saying this, but the whiter you are, the more privileged you are. That is just the way the world is. That's it, right? So that's why I'm saying, as a light skinned Black woman, I absolutely have more, I've experienced, now I can look back, I absolutely experience more privilege than someone who's darker than me, right? But we shouldn't be afraid to call out race, especially when white people are ones who started it, right? So if we're going to do it, then let's make an even playing field here, right? But I think also, if we're honest, a lot of white people get offended because now they're feeling like they're being attacked because
Mm.
we are calling out white supremacy. But whenever I call it out, I said, but it hurts everybody. White supremacy doesn't benefit anybody except for white men,
Hmm.
right? That's the reality.
So when you said before you said racialized, can
Yeah.
you can you
Racialized could be anybody,
okay.
anybody who is is being oppressed by the system, right? So you could be somebody who's Mexican but is white passing, right? So if we even think about like what's happening in the States right now, right? Like a lot of Latinos, voted for Trump, but now they're getting deported, right? But they're white passing. I guess they figured that they were going to be safe, but they're not, because at the end of the day, their passport says you're not from here.
When you say white passing, you mean you can pass as someone who is white.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
I just want to make
Yes.
sure I got the
Yes. 100%.
okay.
100%.
So
Yeah.
so so some, if you're light skinned, like so you can look, let's say you look more white, then you would be a white passing. Okay, got it. You're a white.
Yes. 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 So my girlfriend's husband is Jamaican,
Mm-hmm,
but he's very light skin.
mm-hmm,
So he can easily pass for white. And he goes around and he gets a lot of privileges that she calls him on a lot
mm.
that she doesn't get. I mean, never mind the fact that she's a woman, but she's also darker, right? So they get in a little bit of like, he'll say things like, "Why don't you do this?" She goes, "It's very easy for you to say because you're a white passing man."
Interesting. Okay, white passing. Okay, new
Hmm.
terminology that I learned.
Yeah, so it's either white passing or white facing, kind
Okay.
of the same thing. Hmm.
So you mentioned before Serena Williams. I want to go back to that. So what did you mean?
So have you been on Instagram? Do you know how she's promoting GLP-1s now?
I saw, yes, I did see that. I don't spend a ton of time on Instagram, but I did see that she's now, yes, I did see
Yeah.
announced.
So when was that? Was that on Saturday or Sunday or
I was
Friday?
just in the US and I saw it actually when I was in the US.
Yeah. So I was sitting on my couch, and within a 45-minute period, three people sent me her ad. So
Okay.
Serena Williams now is part of an ad. It's a company called Row, which apparently her husband is also on the board.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So we have seen, so Serena, I believe in the last couple of years has talked about the fact that she's had a difficult time losing the baby weight, right? But let's also remember Serena is fucking strong as hell, right?
Very
And what I
strong.
love about her and what a lot of Black women loved about her is that she didn't fit the Euro, again, standard of what beauty was, athleticism. Like she was a beast, right? Muscular and big and strong, and she was amazing. There's a reason why, like, she's the best tennis player of all time.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting to me, though, that, and yes, I understand. I mean, I'm a menopause health coach. I gained weight. I'm very open about, like, I'm the heaviest I've ever been. but I've also come to terms with the fact that I'm not willing to do what it takes for me to get this weight off. If it's going to compromise my health, I'm not going to do it. Right? I'm going to focus on building muscle and doing all the things. You know what I mean? Anyways, when that ad came out, I there was a few things that bothered me. Number one, and because one of the people who sent me the message about the ad, she's a client of mine, and she's like, so wait a second. She goes, I'm busting my ass. She goes, I work out all the time and I'm having such a difficult time losing weight. And yes, we know that majority of weight loss is not exercise. We know it's nutrition. We know all of that.
Yep.
She goes, but so what? So if the world's best athlete can't lose weight, then is there no hope for me? And so that was her message. And she goes, and I know, she goes, no, Samantha, I'm not going to stop exercising. She goes, but that's the message that a lot of people are going to hear. And she goes, I have a real problem with that. And I was like, absolutely. So that's one. Number two, her showing herself, injecting herself, right?
I
And
didn't
like,
see that part.
where, where are we in the world now that we're watching a celebrity inject herself, not for diabetes, but she's injecting herself for weight loss and saying that that's okay. And she's also saying, I didn't do it for a quick fix. I did it for my health. What? And then lastly, the fact that she is a Black woman. So Black girls all over, millions are looking at her as somebody who has normalized that it's okay to not be rail thin, but you're still fit, you're healthy, you're an athlete, you've won how many awards, like all the things, you're a multimillionaire. But to me, it's like she's sold out, right?
Mm.
Because she's also been making her nose smaller, like she's been doing things, right? And when we make a nose smaller, why are we doing that? It's that Eurocentric standard. Our noses are too big, and now she wants to be smaller because that's the standard. And she can art, and I wonder, like, if we were to have if I was discussing with Serena, she'd probably be like, no, no, and she'd defend, 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 defend. And yes, there is a separate interview with her talking about how she also has elevated blood sugar. I get that. And she's got joint pain. But you and I know there's other things she could have done for that, right?
Mm.
And she doesn't mention that in the ad. Had she said, I'm on row and I had high blood sugar and I had joint pain, and a benefit of me taking this GLP-1 is I also happen to lose weight, then that'd be a little bit of a different, I would still have a problem with it, but it'd be a little bit of a different conversation. But the only thing she said was, I lost 31 pounds and I
Mm.
took this, and shows her injecting herself.
And she's probably in perimenopause, right? Like
Of course she is.
she's in that age
Of
group.
course she is.
I think she's invested, if I'm not mistaken, in a telehealth company. If I'm not, I think it
Well,
was.
maybe this is because her husband is on the board. He's invested in this company, is on the board.
Oh,
And we
okay.
also know she's a celebrity. She's got paid a lot for this ad,
Right, right, right.
right? So I also have a problem with celebrities
Oh,
promoting weight loss medication, which I mean, I know they've been doing it since the beginning of time, but it hasn't been injectables. Like it's usually like Slim Fast or a diet. But now
yeah.
that you're literally injecting stuff in yourself and you're showing yourself, I went crazy. And so I created a reel, I created a stitch about it, and a lot of people are talking about it. And there is the odd doctor who's defending her. Like, so I got in a little bit of a heated discussion with the doctor on her feed, and she was like, she goes, but it's good for obesity and this and that. And I'm like, Serena's not obese.
Mm.
But she had this and this and this and that. And I'm like, are you really trying to tell me that it was so horrible that her losing this 31 pounds all of a sudden flipped her life upside down and she's super healthy? I said, I don't buy it. And I said, if that is the truth, then that should have been placed on the ad, but it wasn't. All she talked about was weight. And this is another thing I've got a real issue with. And so, as much as Omi has divested from the menopause space, I feel like I need to kind of divest from the fitness space because I feel like it's worse than ever.
Hmm.
Right?
I see the GLP-1, I see people pushing GLP-1s everywhere now. Like you can't even like go onto social media without seeing somebody pushing a GLP-1.
And these aren't doctors. You know how many companies have private messaged me and asked me to be an affiliate? And I was like, who am I? Like, I mean, I am a fitness coach, but I'm a fitness coach. I'm not a doctor. I don't know how to, I'm going to sit there and go, oh, guess they, are doing any of that. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of money to be made in that.
Well, it's weight loss. I mean, anytime you talk about weight loss for anything, there's a lot of like that's gonna sell, right? And and unfortunately, like, and let's be real here. I mean, our audience, women in perimenopause and menopause, we know that at least 50% of women gain weight in this phase of life. I mean, you said you gained weight. I gained a lot of weight. I fluctuated up and down 8 to 10 pounds for years. Like, so weight, it is, as much as it is it's actually, interestingly enough, according to our research, it's not in the top 10, but it's in the top 20 most common symptoms. But what is in the top 10 is quality of life. So although it's from an experience standpoint, it's about 50% of us, but if you ask how it affects their life, it's like right up there at the top in terms of
100%.
fatigue and like weight gain. And it's true. I know myself. I know when I had gained weight, what it just dampens everything. I can't fit into my clothes. I got to go buy bigger clothes. Like it's so annoying and frustrating. So I
Yes.
get it. But
Yes, and me too. Like it, all of that is valid,
yeah.
100%. I get it, and I've got a lot of clothes in my closet now that I'm not like I'm thinking like, should I keep them in case I don't want to get into that because then it becomes all
Oh,
about me and the scale, and
yeah.
I'm missing out on
Oh,
all the things
agree.
I do have control over. And
Yeah.
this is the problem with the diet industry for me, right? Is that we have attached everything. We have attached our quality of life to the size of our clothes.
Yes, 100%.
Right?
It's
Whereas I'm like, I've said to clients, I was like, would it be so bad if you actually did go up a size and you bought clothes that fit and you actually feel good and you look good and you feel sexy? Right? And then if you do go down in weight, then buy a new wardrobe. Ooh, then you can celebrate. But why do we, confine ourselves to, but I just want to be the weight I was before? Well, guess what? Before you weren't in perimenopause and menopause, and now you are. And we accept our bodies changing in so many other stages: puberty, pregnancy, illness, surgery, but we can't accept it in menopause.
yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think it's also because it's so closely tied, like you had said, with ageism too, right?
Yeah.
We're on our way out, we're no longer acceptable, and we're gaining weight, and our skin is drying up. We're drying up everywhere because we're losing estrogen, like all of these things, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to, like you had said before, like using as an opportunity to actually now do all the things that we want to do. Right? It's really sickening, this whole, like, come on, I'd almost rather go back to the cabbage soup diet.
Mm. Oh my God. Then inject yourself with a GLP-1 medication.
Well, at least I'm having lots of cabbage. I don't know, right? But
You,
like, that's
yeah,
not going
no,
to
it's
kill my. It's not going to kill my colon. Like, I had a woman, so I did a webinar about a year and a half ago when Ozempic just started to take off. And I did a webinar with another doctor, Dr. Cara Flamer. She's a doctor here in Toronto, and she's also a hormone specialist. And I had a woman come on who had messaged me like privately because she saw that I was marketing this. And she came on and she lost 100 pounds on Ozempic.
okay.
She goes, I was getting all kinds of compliments. She goes, but what people didn't know is I lost my colon, and now she has a colostomy bag, and she's 40 years old.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, let's see. That's tough.
So, no, thank you.
You have to be you have to be super careful if you're going to go on the GLP-1s. You got to make sure your nutrition is spot on. Your exercise has to be important. You have to change your eating habits, your lifestyle. You have to like there's so much that comes with it as opposed to here, just take this medication and then you're off on your way. But you're not. I did actually an interview with Natalie Nidham, and she talked about that. Like if you're going to use a GLP-1, you really need to make sure that you are changing so much of your mindset, because when you go off it, if you haven't incorporated all of these new lifestyle changes, then chances are you're going to gain the weight back. So it's really important. And to not to say like there are side effects of it, right?
Big side effects that are just not. I mean, I did have a client about a year ago ask me. She goes, I just want to ask you. She goes, because she's quite big, and she goes, my doctor's really pushing it on me. And I said, okay. I said, she goes, so what is your opinion? I said, honestly, if you could say that you have done everything you possibly can, you're eating really well, you're strength training 2, 3 times a week, you're really managing your stress, you're getting at least 20 to 25 grams of fiber, you're like all the basic foundations.
Yeah.
You're doing it and you've done that for 6 months
Yep.
and you haven't seen anything change. I said, then it's worth a conversation. And then right away she goes, I'm not doing that. I'm like, well then, right. But she goes, but my doctor didn't say any of that. Of course
Yeah.
he didn't. Because most doctors, I'm not going to damn, because I have a few friends who are doctors as well. I'm not, here to blast up, but, historically, doctors aren't there for prevention. They're not
And they also
really
don't study
educated.
and they don't study nutrition, right? So that's not their Yeah, that's not their area of expertise. And I'm going to add I'm going to add something else to this. And I believe I mentioned this when we were on the panel together, is I had gained a ton of weight. I got a good probably 10, 15 pounds when I was writing my book over the last couple of years. And I handed in so I went up a size and I could not shed it. I was doing everything the same. I was working, I just couldn't shed it. And I handed in my book, Sam, within like 3 weeks, I had lost the weight. So let's talk about cortisol and stress, which plays a big role. So before, if you're going to use these medications, I get it, but stress plays a massive role with weight gain. And I had gained a lot of weight around my belly. And this is what I do for a living. Like this is my job. And I knew stress played a role, but as soon as I handed it in and I took off the weight, I was like, wow, okay. And the fact that I was sitting and writing, right? I wasn't as
Of
mobile as
course.
I normally am.
Yep.
So like, let's talk about cortisol for a minute.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm so glad you said that because I'm sure, like, oh, so you said you're not on Instagram a lot, right?
I'm more on TikTok. I live on TikTok. I post on
Yeah,
Instagram, but
that's
I
right.
live,
You challenged me to get on TikTok.
I did. So I do live on TikTok a little. I love TikTok, but so we'll post on Instagram through Morphus and my page sometimes, but yeah, no, I live a little bit more on Instagram, on
Okay, yes, I did a few, and I'm going to start doing more on TikTok, so you'll see me there. Yeah, so I'm glad that you said that because there also are a lot of coaches. I mean, I feel like the coaching space also is getting kind of saturated as well, and of course the menopause space because everything is menopause, menopause this, menopause that, menopause this, and what was I going to say that like the media? No, that's another word I'm thinking of. See, now I'm having a menopause brain. Anyways, we know that there's a lot of money in this menopause, right? But there's a lot of coaches now who are saying, "Oh, stop using cortisol as an excuse and this and that, and it's not this. You need to reduce your calories more, and you need to do all of this."
oh
And
yeah, like eat
like
less, exercise more. Yeah, I know calorie restriction.
makes me crazy, right? So there was one of the women, I think, oh no, I even asked it on the panel that because somebody else had said to me how menopause was going to be like the next group of eating disorders, remember? And that
Oh,
other
that's right.
woman who was on
The woman who was next to you on
yeah,
your,
I can't
yes,
remember.
yes.
Beautiful blonde. Anyways, I'm sorry for forgot your name if you're listening right now. But she has said she goes, I don't know if it's necessarily the next group, but a lot of these women already had a history of disordered eating, which I would say 90% of my clients
Gen Xers,
have.
hello. We grew up with that whole like exactly. That's how we grew up. Eat like don't eat this, sugar that. Like
Don't
it.
need that. Yeah, and then 20-minute work. I would rush home in junior high and do the 20-minute workout. What am I like? I had no business doing that. But I mean, it doesn't even take like you could literally just Google diet and cortisol.
Yeah.
All you have to do is think about, as soon as like, if you even say the word, like, and I'll say this to my clients too, is like, okay, guys, we're gonna start a diet, and they're all like, yeah, I bet your cortisol went up just even thinking about it. We
Yeah.
know this is a very real thing, and we know that the hormonal changes absolutely impact your ability to manage cortisol, good and bad. I mean, cortisol, it's like the thing is like we don't want to demonize cortisol.
Yeah. No,
We
we
need it
need
for
it.
energy, we need all those things.
It's
But the
chronic.
whole idea now, what I'm seeing a big trend on Instagram is there are a lot of coaches are trying to like push that aside as if we're using this as an excuse. And it's like, dude, if all of a sudden you're feeling in perimenopause, you're not sleeping well, which absolutely is going to affect all your hormones, including cortisol. You're living on coffee, which absolutely is going to affect your cortisol. But then you feel like when someone comes into a room, you want to punch their face in. What do you think that is?
Yeah.
Of course, it's cortisol, right? And we know that even though it's our main stress hormone, also likes to piggyback on with insulin and help us to store fat. So, like, why are we fighting this? But the thing is, you tell a woman in her 40s who's worked all of her life to really, work herself up that corporate ladder to do all the things, and you tell her to slow down. That's the last thing she wants to hear. She wants Ozempic. She wants a magic pill. She wants this. Don't tell me to slow down when I've worked so hard to get to this space.
Hmm.
And that's the thing I feel that I find a lot with my clients. And so I'm like, okay, well, and I think it's also because, again, our generation comes from an all or nothing, right? Eat less, move more. Everything has to be hard, no pain, no gain, all that other bullshit that I really don't. I mean, I used to do that, but I don't do that anymore. It's like when you tell people just to slow down and just focus on one thing at a time, people go crazy because they think, oh my God, if I don't work out every day, I'm going to gain 20 pounds overnight. It's like, It actually doesn't work that way. And there's a pretty good chance if you stop working out every day and you work out 2 to 3 times a week, you're probably going to lose weight now because
Mm.
you're not pushing yourself all the time, which also raises cortisol. Because what people don't know is cortisol doesn't know the difference between a positive or a negative stress. It just knows stress and it responds accordingly, right? But if
Yep.
more people would listen to that and listen to you when you talk about cortisol, and I mean, you're your own guinea pig. You're a perfect
Oh,
example.
oh, completely. And the other thing what's interesting to me too is I have a friend who we're at the gym, we work out, and I hadn't seen her, I don't know, like probably a month or two, and she comes back to the gym, and I knew at the time when she was working out because I had said to her, because she's like she's gaining weight and she can't lose it, and I said to her, and she works out hard at the gym, like she is going like way harder than I work out. And
Mm.
I said to her, I said, I think it might be that you're overdoing your workouts. Like, I think maybe you go, and she's like sweating at the end. I said, I could be, maybe you're just, your cortisol could be high. Like, I think it might be the fact that you're just pushing yourself really hard. And she would go to the gym, but then she'd go home and then she'd do cardio. Like, it was just, oh, it was a lot.
Oh, yeah.
She comes back after not seeing her for a month. She had like lost 15 pounds. So I said to her, I said, oh, you look like you lost weight. Is everything okay? And she was like, you know what, Andrea? You were right. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, I stopped working out as hard. I literally stopped working out as hard and the weight just dropped out, just like dropped off. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting. So pushing ourselves, to your point, is like pushing ourselves super hard. Like I've had to adjust. Now, you're a personal trainer. This is your area of expertise, and I'd like you to chime in, but I've had to adjust the way I work out. Like I really like, so I'm on the older side of our gym and I love it. I do like something where we're doing weights and it's kind of like a mix of different things. But I'm like half the time I'm just like going at my own pace. I do what I can. I push myself obviously heavier so that I get stronger.
Yep.
But I'm doing like low, like when just I won't jump as high. Like I'm just whatever. I kind of just go at my own pace. And I find that for me, I need to because I'm on the older side. No, I know some women might say like it has nothing to do with your age. But for me, I just don't want to be jumping up super hard because of my bladder and I don't want to pee my pants. So like there's different reasons. Or my knees, like if we do like a lot of squats, I find, or certain box jumping, I find it hurts my knee. So I'll just kind of do it in like a different way. So I've learned to adapt, but we have to adapt at this point, whether it's our nutrition, whether it's our exercise, whether it's our stress management techniques, whatever it is, it's the key is adaptation. So adaptation. So I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Oh my God, 100%. I say all the time, I'm like, can we stop fighting against menopause and start working with it? Like, listen to your body. So I just like about a half an hour before we started, I got off a coaching call with one of my clients. When she first started, she goes, I'm so tired. And I was like, okay, how often are you going to the gym? She said 5 to 6 times a week. I was like, okay, number one, stop that.
Yeah, that's a lot. Oh my gosh.
Like it's up. And she works with a trainer. So I'm just coaching her more on lifestyle habits and stuff and helping her with the nutrition. And so I was like, so I said, what I would like, and I said, how long are your workout sessions? She said about an hour. I said, okay, so what I would love for you to do is like you to scale it back to like 30 to 40 minutes max. And I only want you to go to 2, 3 times a week. And her face, like I almost like I saw all the blood drain out of her face, right? She's like, oh, and I was like, don't worry. Again, you're not going to gain 20 pounds overnight. She's like, okay, good. And I said, and all the other days, what I'd really like you to do is like you to go for walks. I'd like you to get into nature, right? Because we know that well, we don't
Mm.
know, but I remember going to a session years ago, and there's something called aerosols that are released from green leaves that actually help to lower blood pressure. So it's like if you could get out in nature, get around greenery and really just and walk. I said, you're not power walking, not trying to get your heart rate up, you're not trying to do this. You're just really trying to become one with nature. And then also, and she said that she used to do like a little short yoga practice a few times a morning and she'd gone out of routine. I said, get to that.
Mm.
Plus, she was vegan and not shaming vegans, but it's really difficult for you to be a vegan and get enough protein. It really, really is hard unless you're really like, strict. And also eating a lot of processed, to be honest, right? So she started introducing, she said she was open to eating fish and she's having some eggs. And I talked to her today. I said, she goes, oh my God. She goes, my energy night and day.
I
And,
yeah.
and she's PR'd twice in her deadlift. Okay.
Wow.
Not working out as much because what people keep forgetting, and again, our generation, like again, I used to work out 5 to 6 days a week. I took one maybe 2 days off a week, but in 2 days would be because like I wasn't feeling well, right? I used to work out like a fiend, and now I go maximum 4 days a week, and that's what just because and that's a good week. But I would say on average three, right? But what people forget is with muscle, which is metabolic, we need it for our metabolism, we need it for the blood sugar, like all these things that people are going to, things like Ozempic for anything else, is that the muscle is not being created in the gym. That is not where you're getting it. You're actually damaging, you're causing trauma, you're creating little micro tears. But in order for that muscle to grow, you need ample amounts of protein and you need rest and recovery, which your body is screaming for in menopause because you're fucking tired.
Yeah, exhausted. Actually, I find it interesting that would, well, I guess it would be because that's what you do for a living. But when she said she was tired, the first question you had was, how much are you working out? So I find that
Yeah,
interesting that you went
right
right there.
away. Because
Yeah.
I know this generation because I was them. Because you start to gain weight. So what did we do back in the day?
Go do our cardio on the
I'm gonna
steps.
work
How many
exactly. I'm
like
gonna do more
live on
cardio,
that?
and then I'm gonna eat less, and I'm gonna do all these things, and then now you have no fuel,
Yep.
right? So you're basically running on empty, and you're wondering why like, and you're not. So you're totally stressing your system. Your cortisol is probably through the roof, right?
Yeah.
You're not sleeping well. So actually, why don't you start listening to your body? But so that was so great. But the fact that she PR'd in her deadlift, like she's getting stronger, exercising less. Like I hope people hear that.
Can you explain what PR is, just in case
So,
people?
so it's your best, it's your highest. Like she did her personal best, right? So, I mean, I can say at 54, I'm now bench pressing, wait, 155 pounds
That's awesome.
on my own. That's
That's
the heaviest I've ever lifted in my life.
when I started, Sam, the 45-pound bar, I could hardly even lift it.
Of course.
Couldn't even lift it. It took me so long. My upper body strength, I used to never do weights, ever, ever, ever. It was only cardio. And
Yep.
because I didn't want to get strong, I didn't want to look like the Hulk, right?
You
Like,
want to get bulky.
I don't want to get bulky. And then now over the last couple of years, when I go to the gym, I'm like obsessed with like arm day, chest day, shoulders. Like I'm like obsessed. I'm like, yeah, let's do it, you know? And I'm getting stronger, like being able to lift my suitcase. I just traveled last week. I was in Denver, being able to lift my heavy carry-on up over my head into like the overhead bin. Like that to me is, I was like progress. And I'm so proud of myself. And one of the men on the airplane, he's like, "You want me to help you?" I'm like, no, no, I'm doing this myself because I'm actually proud of being able to do it. But I'm trying to like get stronger, but I love that. And I love that. I love that we're talking about strength because strength comes in so many different forms.
So important. And people, yeah, again, yeah, it is very generational that we would say, oh, don't lift because you're going to get bulky. And like, honestly, we would have to lift so heavy and eat so much food. And now that you're in menopause and like it's literally robbing muscle from you faster than ever, like, I dare you to try and get like there's way too much output that you'd be required in order for you to get bulky at this point. Right now, this is just about protecting your bones, hoping you don't fall and break a hip. Because I don't even want to talk about that. Like we know that if you fall and break a hip, I think it's believed after the age of 65, you have a 50% chance of dying in that year. Like what?
Yeah.
That's only 10 years from where I am now. And I'm nowhere near ready to die or anything. It really is about quality of life as much as you were saying earlier, like our clothes don't fit. But if we're basing our quality of life on the size of our clothes, I'd rather base the quality of my life of, like what you said, I can lift my carry-on overhead. If I have to move my furniture, somebody else said to me the other day, she's like, I was able to, she said when she was taking her winter tires off of her car, she was like, I was able to take my tires out of the back by myself. I've never been able to do that before,
Yeah.
right? These
That's
things where we
huge.
always rely on other people to do it.
That's
People
huge.
are living independently. Don't you want to do that?
That 100%. That it is so, and I would feel I feel like that it kind of contributes to our strength. Like we have mental strength, we have physical strength. Like I feel like it contributes to us, our menopausal strength that make us who we are. So yeah, I love that. And good for her. I love
Yeah,
that she was able to do it by herself. So
yeah.
one of the things I want to go back to GLP-1s for 1 minute because something else that I'm seeing that's a trend are, and I don't want to put it down because I know some women, if you need it and you're on them and you absolutely need them, or you're diabetic and you need it,
Yes,
like,
of course.
like
Yeah.
there's reasons for doing it. So one of the things I've seen now is microdosing GLP-1. So do you know anything about, like, I don't know too much about it, but
Honestly, I don't know anything about it. I just know that I've seen other influencers promoting it big time. And that's where I have a problem.
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
is a medication. And that's why I said, like, I've had companies private message me, you can make a lot of money. And no, who am I to be promoting any kind of medication?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not even supposed to be promoting vitamin supplements, but I kind of do a little bit. But you know what I mean? Like right? So it's it's so for me, it's so apparent that it's such a money grab because of the fact that the diet industry is a multi-billion dollar industry. And what do the stats say now that in 2025, 1 billion women across the world are in some stage of menopause,
Yeah. 20, yeah,
right?
21 billion women.
Right? We know, like you said, 50% of women, which I would actually, I mean, from my experience, way more than 50% of women are gaining weight, right? Maybe a lot of people aren't talking about it. Maybe they're not admitting it because something else that I notice is when I do a free discovery call with people, they'll be like, I know I shouldn't say this, but I also want to lose weight,
Hmm.
right? So
Hmm.
there's been this whole big thing too, like we shouldn't talk about weight loss. It's like, yeah, you can talk about weight loss, absolutely. When it comes to your body, you're just not allowed to tell other people to lose weight because that's none of your business, right? So I wonder if maybe there's like people that haven't been like really open to admitting that they've gained weight,
Could be.
right? But the diet industry knows this and they know how, and I almost feel like menopause now is like this desperation to be younger. Also because again, the ageism, we're seeing all kinds of cheek fillers and lip fillers and this and that and everything else. Like people, not to say that people aren't looking human, but some of them actually don't. And so this is just something else. And because some people are getting results so quickly, then why wouldn't they? Right. And the thing is, and actually now going back to strength, this is one of the biggest side effects that really bothers me. But this is really just any extreme diet. The majority of the weight that they're losing is muscle.
Muscle. Yeah, I was gonna say, and even especially on the GLP-1s, muscle.
Yeah.
Muscle. Yeah.
That is so dangerous. So how is that going to help you? You being 30 pounds less if you do slip and break a hip. Or
Yeah.
now you've got osteoporosis. Like,
Hmm. Yeah.
So yes, there is a place. There is a place for these medications, but like I said before, I really believe that until you have a good solid foundation that you've done all the things and you're not going to stop doing those things if you start a GLP-1. You're not going to stop strength training. You're still going to really focus on protein, all of those, right? Those are the pillars that regardless of what stage you are in, it doesn't matter. Right? When people say like what should I do in menopause? It's like, you know what? Actually, it's all the stuff you should have been doing a long time ago, lifting, protein. But this is not nothing new because you're in menopause, but now people are freaking out because menopause is making such a physical and physiological change that now people are actually starting to pay attention. And I've been talking about women lifting since I started my business in pre and postnatal. I wanted pregnant women to lift weights. And like, my doctor told me not to lift anything. I was like, don't you have a toddler that you pick up all the time? Yeah. Then you can
Yeah.
lift weights. Oh, right? So there's always been this thing that women not should not lift, and they've been getting it from their doctors too. They've been getting it everywhere.
I wish I started lifting weights when I was younger because I look at my daughter now, she's going to 14 and she plays prep basketball. It's all about weight training and strength training. And it's like such a different mentality than
Yep,
for when I was younger, right? For us, it was about doing that cardio and more cardio, the more cardio and
yep,
never
yep, yep.
touching that weight. So for them now, the younger generation is all about the strength and the strength training and the lifting. It's so nice to see. And now maybe, my daughter she's more in the athlete world, but it's like, yeah, no, the focus is they're doing training with the strength conditioning and all of that. So, and you look at her arms, like it's so cute because I'm like, show me your muscle. And she's got like this amazing, muscular hands or muscular legs. And I'm like, muscular arms. I'm like, oh, it's so beautiful.
I
Like,
know,
I want that.
I
So,
know.
anyways, it's nice to
Yeah,
see it shifting a little bit. So the,
yes,
the
it
mindset
is.
shifting.
Yeah, they're saying that Gen Z is probably the most physical generation. At the same time, too, again, for me, looking from the outside in, being in for so long and being on social, I really also find that it's kind of dangerous. Like it's becoming too like I went to the gym earlier this morning with my daughter, my younger daughter, and she's like, I want to do glutes. I want to do glutes. Like there's this obsession now with building your glutes. Whereas
Oh,
you and
okay.
I remember when we were younger, we didn't want to have a big bum.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, my bum's so big. I remember that feeling like I want to hide my bum. Now we're getting BBLs and it's glutes, and it's like, okay, but what about just like overall fitness? Like, why does it have to
It
just
always
be,
has to be something like an
can we all
obsession.
do, yeah, can we also just do our full body? Can we not like, and why does, and then she's like, am I eating enough protein for this and that? So it's almost gone like the pendulum is like, going so much in the other direction that's becoming obsessive. And I don't know if you saw, but someone sent me this reel right before we came on, and it's this funny woman on Instagram, and she's like, and if you're not um bench pressing your body weight in cottage cheese, then what's the point? Right now it's becoming so extreme. It's like, okay, when are we going to find the middle ground that we have to strength train? Yes, we also have to do cardio. Yes, we also have to eat our protein, but it doesn't have to be 50,000 million grams. It doesn't only have to be all cottage cheese. And
But balance doesn't sell. That's the thing.
it's not sexy. I know. And that's why I'm not a millionaire, because I say to people, I'm like, if you're looking to me to, to lose 20 pounds in 12 weeks, I could probably do it, but I'm not going to, because you're going to hate me. You're going to hate the process. And when you stop, you're going to gain all the weight back and more. Right. And lifestyle changes. Yes, it doesn't sell. It's not sexy.
Yeah, it's not, and yeah, I mean, nutrition, lifestyle. Again, it's like the formula is pay attention to what you're eating, to nutrition, and part of it too, nutrition, lifestyle, exercise, all of that all together, managing stress. But part of it too is I feel like when you with social media, you get so many conflicting opinions and
Yep.
information. It becomes very difficult for people
Yep.
to siphon through and be like, what should I be doing? What should I now? We're all different and unique and all our bodies are different. So it becomes overwhelming.
Yes, it totally does. And I have had people who've come to me. It's like, I finally found you, and then I felt like you were speaking to me. So, if people are listening right now and thinking like they're agreeing, like it is, especially in the menopause space, like so conflicting, overwhelming. It's like, you know what? Find the people who you really feel are speaking to you,
Yeah.
that you can see yourself with, that you actually like them. They're not talking at you, right? And it's not coincidental that a lot of my friends were once clients,
Mm,
because I attract a lot of people who are like me, who are
yeah.
like-minded, right? And so I'm not going to promise all this weight loss. I never promise anything. What I do promise is that you're going to have a different relationship with your body. You're going to think about movement and food differently, and that I'm really going to try over time to help you to stop obsessing and comparing and doing all these things. Like, you know, um, what something that's very common when I talk with my one-on-one clients is I'll check in. It's like, so how's your movement been? I always say, how's your movement? I never say how many days you work out, right? Because
Yeah.
there's not pressure, right?
Yeah.
How's your movement? Okay, and how's your food been, right? And they'll be like, I was bad on the weekend. It's like, okay, explain what does that mean to me? Well, I had an ice cream on Saturday, and I had a glass of wine on Sunday. Like, and
You're like, that's balance.
how is that bad?
But
Did you
notice
have
how like
ice
you
cream
say,
every day? Pardon me?
but notice how like the word, right? I was bad.
Ding, 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 ding. Right, we've demonized food so much that, and like, so this one client who said this to me a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, did you have I said, how many times did you have ice cream? Once in the week. And I was like, well, I fucking hope so, because it was like 40 degrees outside. If you didn't have ice cream, I had ice cream. And you had, oh, sorry, she had 2 glasses of wine on Sunday. Okay. And I'm a big believer with the 80-20 rule. I do believe that.
Oh, me
I
too. I agree. I'm the 80/20 rule. I
I
totally.
really believe like that. That's just kind of, that's,
Yeah.
again, that's not sexy. Right?
Yeah.
So even though I say that to people, they still come back with, and I'm like, dude, I said 80-20. There was your 20. You had your ice cream. You had a couple glasses of wine.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I shouldn't. Why? Who said you shouldn't have?
Yeah.
Because if you don't, what happens as a result? We end
You're
up
gonna
binging.
binge. You're gonna binge. You're gonna get it from somewhere else. You can't deprive. It's not about deprivation. One of the things I have is not about deprivation, but rather education.
Thank
And
you.
and I think that if listen, should we be mindful of ultra processed foods? Yes, we should be. Should we be trying to get most of our diet from whole foods? Yes, we should be. But at the same time, I always look at it, especially being in perimenopause and menopause, is that I've got my things that I'm like, no, I'm not going to put that into my body. But then if I choose to do something and put something in, I know that it might affect me in a certain way. So I'm going to give you a
Yes.
good example. So chocolate. I love chocolate. I can eat chocolate all day long.
Mhm.
I love dark chocolate. But I know a couple of things how chocolate affects me. I know that, and if also a certain amount. So the dose, what is it? The dose makes the poison, or whatever that
Yes,
saying
yes,
is.
yeah,
So how much? So I know I can do a little bit, and I love chocolate and I eat it every day. But I
yep,
know if I go too much, then it's going to cause side effects for me. What are those side effects? Number one, I'm going to get night sweats. And especially if I have it before bed, it's going to throw it up. My body just at night doesn't like chocolate. So I'm
yep,
trying to be very mindful of that. The other thing I've noticed recently is when I eat too much chocolate, my brain, my memory is affected. And I actually have memory loss. It is the craziest, wildest thing that I recently discovered. And it was literally through trial, like an elimination. Because
yeah,
what was happening, and I'm always trying to like, I try to really stay in tune with my body. And I was eating a lot of chocolate, and all of a sudden I would forget things. Like I'm talking about, again, forgetting things that like I should not be forgetting. And my brain, I
yes,
try to keep it sharp. And
yes,
I'm like, wait a minute, wait, I just remembered that word. I can't remember that word. I can't. And then I'm like, what could it possibly be? And I'm like, is it something that I'm eating? Is it like that maybe I don't have enough nutrition? Anyways, I figured out that it was chocolate, and I literally backed off chocolate for like a couple of weeks. My brain went back to normal, like literally went back to the way it was. And then again, if I have too much, I'll notice the effects. So it's up to us. Like I feel like making the decision of what we choose to put in our body, or I make it. It's mindful decisions for me. That if I
100%.
want my piece of chocolate, I'm going to have it. But I know that I might experience, X and Y in terms of side effects. But at least I'm being mindful about it, right? So that's kind of how I look at it. So, and especially because we're doing the dance in perimenopause and menopause with triggers, and certain things
Yep,
will trigger,
yep,
symptoms. So I just feel like when it comes to nutrition, definitely I agree with you, the 80-20 rule, but just being mindful. If you know that it's going to do something you don't want to, let's say if you have a glass of wine and it's going to trigger a hot flash, you may not want to, right? You may just want to be like, okay, I'm going to have an alternative or do something different.
100%. Yeah, I so agree with that. And I like the fact too, like you're making that decision. So, I used to have a friend who was like, my naturopath told me because she went to see her naturopath because she's having really bad night sweats. And she said, well, you might want to scale back on the wine. And she said, absolutely not. She goes, Samantha, I'm willing to accept the night sweat. It's like, okay, well, then at least you're making an informed choice.
No.
You're deciding that's something you're not going to give up. So, when you drink wine, you're going to have night sweats. Okay. But at least that way, if you educate yourself, right, you can't sit there and go, I don't understand. I feel like I'm going, because we hear that all the time, right? I feel like I'm going crazy. Where is this coming from? I
Yeah.
don't understand this, right? And I think that's why the education is the big part, but also not demonizing and shitting on yourself. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Who said you shouldn't do that?
No,
Who
it's
said?
coming from a place of empowerment. And and you're okay with that, then you've made the decision and you're in charge. And that's the key.
100%.
You're in charge.
Yeah, agree. 100%. We're so aligned with that for sure. For
I
sure.
love it. Okay, so I know we've been talking, I probably can talk to you for like forever. So before we end the interview, is there anything that we didn't touch upon? I know we touched upon a lot, but is there anything that you would like to mention or leave our audience with?
Well, I want to leave the audience with please lift up something heavy and start strength training like yesterday.
Yep.
I shouldn't say that actually, because some people might say, "Oh my God, I didn't strength train yesterday," and then start. Don't shoot on yourself about anything. You just the next workout, I want you to lift something heavy, because literally, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, muscle is the organ of youth, and that is what's gonna. You want to feel young and look young, lift some heavy shit. Number one. But number two, I also wanted to talk about. I've got this great retreat that I'm hosting in Costa Rica January 31st to February 7th, and we only have a couple of spots left. So flip flops and hot flashes. I would love to have you. It's a retreat focused on menopause and getting people to feel good in their skin again. And I had my first retreat actually in March of this year in Costa Rica, and it was life changing. And
Okay.
so we're just going on from here. We're building. I'm really excited about it.
I love it. All right. So do you have a link? I can put the link below in
Yeah.
okay. So I'll put a link below. And then how can everyone find you on social media?
You can find me everywhere: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok at Sam Core Trainer. I made it easy. Doesn't
I
matter where
like
you
it.
are.
I
That's where I
like
am,
it.
Sam Core Trainer.
Easy. I like easy. All right. Well, Sam, this has been a pleasure. Thank you for being on my podcast.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. This was fun.
I hope you enjoyed my interview with Sam as much as I did. If you did, please share it because the more you share shows you care. And please take a moment to review and rate our podcast because when you do that, the algorithm sends it out to more women so they can have access and listen to our incredible interviews and my amazing experts that come on the show. I am so grateful to each and every one of them. Thank you for spending the last little bit with me. I know there's a lot you could be doing, but instead you chose to spend your time with me. And for that, I'm grateful. I'll see you at the next interview.